All right, I think we are good to go. Let's get rid of some banners. Let's get rid of our kid giving us the fingers here. Let's put Ion and his beats on pause. What else have we got? We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram is working today as well. All right, well, that's exciting. Good morning, everybody. November 21, 2024 would have been my parents' 60th anniversary today. So, Mom, love you. And, I don't know. What do you say? Do you say happy anniversary? Anyways, thinking of you, episode 305. Welcome to Mornings with Scott, the best damn business show for medium and small businesses on the planet. I am not as frazzled this morning. I'm in Chicago. I'm settled on a snowy, cold winter day here down by the lake in a haunted hotel, but that's another story. And there is so much. I haven't had technical issues. We seem to be live everywhere. Ashley's joined us on Instagram. So thank you for joining us. Ashley, I do think I should plug in this iPad though, or we're going to have troubles. It's great. Excellent. I'd like to hear that. Thank you for that feedback. So many business stories this morning. NVIDIA sales are way up. They announced after close yesterday. XAI. Oh, sorry, NVIDIA. I wanted to just a quick comment on that. I listen to an economics trading podcast every morning, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I'll get it to you in the future. It's on YouTube. And this guy is always a contrarian, a bear. He thinks everything is a fraud, but there appears to be some sort of evidence, or at least strong speculation, that NVIDIA is stuffing sales channels. So sales are way up, but let's keep an eye on that stock. XAI, this is the AI, artificial intelligence related company to X, formerly Twitter, owned by Elon Musk, closed the deal, I believe yesterday, or it was announced yesterday, that valued that company with independent third-party investors who actually wrote a check at $55 billion. As a reminder, XAI did not exist until Elon bought Twitter. Then he started XAI based on the data, because as I told you before, that part of the play here with X is to get access to the world's conversation and to own that data so that you can use that to populate and teach artificial intelligence. And when you do that, you're probably the only person in the world that has actually uses data that you own, that you have the rights to to train your AI, as opposed to, let's say, Chat GPT, which is out scouring the internet and stealing information from other sites like news sites and then not paying for it. And that's becoming a real problem. And so we've talked about all that before, but XAI valued at $55 billion. As a reminder, Elon paid what? 42, 44 billion, some sort of such number for X itself. So the AI related company that comes from X is actually worth more than what he paid for all of Twitter to begin with, which is also has its own valuation. Has he doubled his money? Has this been a two-banger already? And we're not talking about this. Everybody thought Elon was crazy, that he was nuts for paying that much. And look at that. And look at that. Billions and billions and billions made. By the way, I was sitting yesterday here in Chicago for a late night-ish dinner at a bar by myself, and the fellow next to me works for X. I won't disclose his name. One second. I won't tell you his name for privacy reasons and all that sort of stuff, but it was a good conversation. It was interesting to meet this fellow, and they get, as an employee, get stock options, not only in X, but I think there was a 25% crossover to XAI. So he's a pretty happy guy. He's a pretty happy guy. Not liquid yet. You don't get the money until you sell it, till there's a liquidity event. But in a value perspective, he looks like he's in pretty good shape. Other stories in the news that we're not going to have time to cover today. Indian billionaire Adani charged with a $250 million bribery scheme. This relates to trying to bribe Indian officials for solar panel contracts. But there's more to this story. We want to keep an eye on it. There's all sorts of rumors and rumblings that this has more to do with money laundering and sidestepping Iranian sanctions related to energy. This could be an interesting story as it unfolds. Canadian real estate investor fund KingSett, which manages about $2 billion AUM, assets under management, without the leverage. They got another maybe 3 or 4 million of leverage on top of that. Ring fenced this fund for a year. What does ring fencing a fund means? It means if you're an investor in that fund, you can't redeem, you can't get your money back. You're just stuck there. You're just stuck there. Why? Because the fund doesn't have the cash to give you your money back. Why? Because it's been trying to sell assets like commercial real estate in downtown Toronto forever, and no one will buy it because there is no market for commercial real estate right now, or certainly at the price that the vendors want to get to show a profit in their fund. So this is one of many real estate funds in Canada that has been ring fenced. I don't know about the US, but probably it's a tough sector. All right. Did you see this guy? Let me show you this guy. I like this was my favorite story from yesterday. There we go. There's our kid with his fingers. I hope everybody can see that. So we'll get rid of him. So this kid, this was on X yesterday. What's he look to you? Like 13, 14 years old. He creates his own cryptocurrency, as I gather from the story. And he's got a live stream going yesterday, and he launches his own crypto, and the value goes up. So he's got charts on the live stream. You know, the value of the crypto is going up and up and up. And then he dumps his position, and he nets a quick 30 grand off of this basically fake crypto at 13, 14 years old, however old he is. And then he just abruptly cuts off the live stream while giving the fingers to everybody. That's a screenshot from his live stream as he's signing off. And so he made about 30 grand on that. He's a criminal in the making, but it was a pretty funny story. But the joke's on him. The joke's on him, as it turns out, because when I signed off last night from life and went to sleep, that coin that he created was up to $40 million in market cap. The kid could have made millions. It's always getting out too soon that even in a fraud seems to be the expensive choice. I'm sorry, that story just cracks me up. Have you been following DOGE, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, set up by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in the United States under the Trump administration? They will be in charge, leading the charge on cutting waste, budget, and regulation from the government. The goal is to cut $2 trillion. Now, for context, the U.S. Annual budget is about $7 trillion. And it's tough to cut $2 trillion out of $7 trillion, particularly when the discretionary piece of the $7 trillion is only about $1.7 trillion. So they're going to cut more than the discretionary, which means they're going to non-discretionary, which means they're going to cut into the discretionary piece. The non-discretionary is about, did I get that all mixed up? Anyways, the non-discretionary, you know what I mean. The non-discretionary is about $3.7 trillion. That's Medicaid, Medicare, social programs. So to hit the $2 trillion in cuts, everybody says that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen without dipping into and changing the social security net that exists in the U.S. But what they're missing is that it's reported that the non-discretionary $3.7 trillion, about 25% of that could be fraud. Like, it's so wasteful. It's so fraudulent. So you could deliver the same service with a 25% discount if you could tackle all that fraud. And that's about $1 trillion right there, maybe a little bit less. So I'm excited about this DOGE, D-O-G-E, and following along. It could be the most aggressive turnaround in history. The most interesting and aggressive turnaround in history. Just like Elon and X, when he bought Twitter, he cut 80% of staff and delivered a better product almost immediately. I'm excited to follow along. And for full disclosure, I am working with them. Well, when I say working with them, what I mean is I DM the X account of DOGE and volunteered my services. I haven't heard back yet. I'm certain I will. I mean, I'm the best turnaround guy going. I should be working on this nonstop. So Sean Spear, I have no idea who that is, at The Hub Canada on X, put a post and he says, should the Polyev led, I don't know how to pronounce his name, by the way. This is the probable new Prime Minister of Canada once there's an election called and Trudeau is ousted, unless, of course, Trudeau does a hot swap and puts in whoever to take over the Liberal Party, and then maybe there's a real race. But the way we stand right now, it looks like this Pierre Polyev, I'm going to go with Polyev-led government. So should a Polyev-led government create its own DOGE, D-O-G-E, to cut spending and reform government? Yes. And why not ask at Toby to lead it? This is he's referring to the Shopify CEO, who is our current Canadian tech darling. And so why not put him in charge of that? And let's have our own cuts of government efficiency. And let's remember, it's a budget, but it's also regulation. The regulation probably way more important than the budget cuts. Well, Andrew Coyne, leading Canadian journalist, writes for the Globe and Mail, writes for the National Post. He's on TV as a political commentary. He contributes to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and has huge TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. I always thought this guy was sort of middle of the road, maybe a little even right of center. But he's just over the top hatred for conservatives, for low-income people, middle-income people, and them being left behind in this economy. I mean, it's horrible. So he's huge TDS. He also apparently has huge Polyev syndrome. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but it very well could be. His latest contribution to life as an esteemed political journalist is he's been on X calling Elon fat, near as I can tell. And he's one of these douches. He's one of these douches that in his bio, he's got 4 country flags, and none of them are Canada, where he's from, or US from where he's from. People that have the Ukrainian flag and the the Palestinian flag or whatever. Whatever. He's one of these douches. I didn't see if his pronouns were in there or not, but he posts back because he doesn't know the first thing about government, because the DOGE is a joke, because Canada is not the United States, because cutting spending, reforming government is a hard and necessary task for grown-ups, not for a stunt, not a stunt for moonlighting businessmen. So this douche, Andrew Coyne, is against cutting government waste for sure, and doesn't think that businessmen are able to do that. What a POS this guy is, honestly. There's nobody that bothers me more in Twitterverse right now than this Andrew Coyne guy. You know, he's virtual signaling on every other country with his flags, but he doesn't care about government waste. He doesn't think it can be done. He doesn't care about overregulation. He doesn't care about the inflation in Canada. He doesn't care about lost wages and unemployment, and that we're just going downhill from an economic standpoint, and that you can't just send businessmen in to do the turnaround. You just can't do it. That seems to be this jerk's point of view. And meanwhile, Mario Naufal on X announces, did a post with respect to Argentina yesterday that under Miele, do you remember this Miele guy? What's the name? Javier, is that right? Is that his name? You can tell me in the comments if you want. Hey, what do we got? We got the best damn dishes show. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, RR and Jeff on Instagram. When I'm looking at comments, the Instagram comments do not show up on my main screen, so I actually have to flip to an Instagram screen to see if there's people on there. So sorry if I'm slow getting back to you on Instagram. So this guy, this Argentinian Milei, who's the president there, this is a guy that was actually campaigning with a chainsaw. Remember, didn't have the blade on it, of course, but like they do at a downhill mountain bike event or a European motocross race, they got the guy, they got the chainsaw going, make lots of noise in the crowd and smoke going up. Well, he was campaigning in crowds with the chainsaw going because he's going to hack because Argentina was in serious trouble. Well, he's been in power in less than a year. I think it's 1 year this December. Argentina posted 888 million trade surplus in October 24, rebounding from deficits last year. Exports soared 30%, fueled by agriculture and manufacturing, while imports grew 4.9%. Many credit Miele's, I don't know how to say his name. Actually, I wrote this down. Milei is how I pronounce his name. They credit his policies for driving the country's economic turnaround by cutting government spending and removing red tape, i.e. regulation. He did his own DOGE. He was the leader of the DOGE. That's why he's hanging out with Musk and Trump at Mar-a-Lago all the time, because he campaigned with the chainsaw, and then in less than a year, inflation dropped from 200%. 200%. That means if your eggs are, $10, and a year later, those eggs would be $30. Like, it's insane. And then the year after, they'd be $90. That's what 200% inflation does to your basket of goods. You just can't live like that. In 1 year, he dropped it from 200% to 2.7%, which is pretty good. It's a little off from the desired target, but not much. Not much. It's fallen into, I think that the U.S. inflation right now is a little higher than 2.7%. Not the reported inflation, but where I think it's going to be once they adjust all the numbers to stop making the Biden-Harris regime look pretty good. So he's brought this from 200% to 2.7%, and he's recording surpluses, 11 consecutive monthly surpluses, all in less than a year from Argentina-style DOGE initiative. Yes, Andrew Coyne, it's all a joke. We shouldn't do it, and we should just succumb to corruption and bad management at the government level, you jerk. Speaking of bad management and corruption, former Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper. Do you remember this guy during the banking crisis? When was that? 2008 or something along those lines. Stephen Harper from Alberta Canada. So he was prime minister for a long time. And during that crisis, he was prime minister, and Canadian banks survived. We didn't have the same financial crisis that everybody else did. I mean, we get leakage because we're so close to the US, but he really, really managed this crisis from a financial point of view really, really, really well. And he's just a good, solid administrator and a class act as far as I'm concerned. And at the time, he was on CNN when CNN was like sort of legit back then. And he was being interviewed on the Canadian banking system and why it withstood the pressure so well. And I was watching that and I was like, wow, this guy's really competent. I'm actually proud of this guy being my leader. He was pretty good. Anyways, he announced yesterday on X that he's taking the role. I am taking the role of the board chair of the Alberta Investment Management Corporation, AIMCO, and doing so on a pro bono basis, so he's not getting paid, because I believe it is a meaningful act of public service to my adopted home province of the last 46 years. I also feel uniquely positioned to help the organization improve its governance. Over several decades, Canadian pensions have earned a global reputation thanks to professional operations, upstanding ethics, and prudent risk management. I've accepted the role of board chair because I want to see AIMCO further embody these values and to positively contribute to the culture. I look forward to working with the new board of directors and AIMCO's new management team. So this AIMCO is about 160 billion crown corporation. In other words, it's owned by the province and it manages all of the public pension money. And in just like a week or two ago, certainly in November, the Alberta government just fired the entire board of directors and the CEO of AIMCO because it was concerned about rising operational costs and underperformance relative to benchmarks. By the way, from what I can tell, I thought the fund was doing fine. I think that when you look at benchmarks of a fund, you need to look at performance over a period of time, because I do think before the bad year, I do think they had overperformance years. So if you average that all out, it would have been viewed much better. But whatever, I haven't done a deep dive on that, so that's just my peripheral view on the thing. And so they fired the whole board and they bring in Stephen Harper, and he's going to pro bono chair the entire thing as service to his public. Now, lest you think that him doing this without pay is some sort of political scam and he's getting on the side somewhere else. I mean, maybe, but listen to the story. So I don't know, 2-3 years ago, I was on a flight. I believe it was a WestJet flight from Toronto to Calgary. And I was in business class, but business class on WestJet is like, it's like business class on a regional United flight, which I took yesterday to get here to Chicago. Like, it's not these big pods where you're laying down and chilling out. It's, you're 2x2 in the rows up front. It's fine. It's comfortable. But that's what WestJet is. And so I'm on a window seat. I don't know why I was on a window seat, because I hate being on a window seat. And I hate being on a window seat because I have to go to the bathroom at my age, like every 20 minutes or so, it feels like. So I sit on an aisle, so I'm not bugging anybody. Well, I'm on a window, and who comes in to sit next to me is Stephen Harper, former prime minister for over a decade, I think, of Canada, and a very well internationally respected guy. So he comes in and sits beside me. Now, you look at the U.S. where they're flying around on private airplanes, on Trump Force One and Air Force One, and here's our guy on a WestJet flight, and he was coming back from China. So he was like a drone. He was just a walking zombie and so tired and out of sorts, but a gentleman down to the end. So he kind of slumps down in his seat. I pass out like I normally do at the beginning of the flight. He slumps down in his seat and he pulls out his phone. He's playing like Candy Crush or some stupid kids game on his phone, like playing his game, and which is odd for a prime minister, I think, a former prime minister to be doing. And then we're getting to the point where they're bringing out our meals. So it's dinner time, and they're bringing out the trays, and you have to put the you have to put the table out. And so I think to myself, this is my chance. I better go to the washroom. Otherwise, I am stuck in here for another hour, and I don't want to do that. Well, he's eating and I'm eating, and so I say, "Excuse me." And as I say, "Excuse me," to get up, so Stephen Harper gets up, and the attendant brings my tray of food right then. So and then he's got to run because he's got other trays. So I got this in my hand, and so Harper says, "Here, give me that." Like he wants to hold my food for me. Well, I go to the bathroom. I go, no, I can't do that. He goes, "Oh yeah, come on, just get." And he takes my tray of food from me. And I go to the bathroom and I do my business, and I come out, and the Prime Minister of Canada is still standing there holding my tray of food. It was very embarrassing. He is a genuine dude and a class act. I like him a lot. Right, where are we here? Post on LinkedIn from a Luke Jansen of Magazine Venture Studios. This, I think I said it was in Singapore. I didn't write that down. But this guy's a venture capitalist, and he writes down on LinkedIn yesterday, "If a startup founder flies business class, I write them off totally." It tells them that they have no idea what they are doing, and they are unfit to run a startup. Other spending that would be so big as a red flag that I would never invest in them: hiring recruiters, consultants, taking a salary that is more than 50% of their last corporate salary. 30% if their last corporate salary was in finance. Tells you what he thinks about finance people. If he hires a PR company, any marketing or advertising agency, throws a huge corporate party, too much merch. Although I found that merch is very cheap these days. He said, if you are good, you don't need to spend money on any of these things. If you are weak, you do. That was his post. So I don't know. How do you feel about that, founders? Do you agree with these concepts and points from Luke Jansen? Well, friend of the show, or at least former friend of the show, haven't heard from him in a while. Rabbi Moskowitz in Long Island, I think, or in New York somewhere. He writes back. He says, "I think this is a horrible take, especially for deep tech investments where it becomes a customer service PR game. I've invested millions in such companies. Hiring the right CEO in the scaling phase is gonna be expensive." Yes, he says gonna. He actually typed that out, Gonna. That's not just my horrible slang. Going to be expensive. PR is really important to attract the right investors, etc. There is not one shoe that fits all, but it doesn't stop there. It does not. Luke Jansen replies, "Rabbi, PR is important. I agree, but you can do it yourself. You don't need a PR firm. Hiring a CEO, you should know the candidates. If you don't know the candidates for CEO when you're scaling your tech investment as a VC, your network isn't good enough," according to Luke Jansen. And I don't think hiring a new CEO for a scaling phase is the right answer. Anyways, the original CEO founder should do it. Are we done? We're not. The rabbi pipes back. "With all due respect, I personally do all my PR and have yet to hire, but in deep tech, it's very hard to get the right PR without the right contacts. You can't expect your founders to be a Swiss Army knife. I would love to see your portfolio success rate." He challenges. Mine right now is actually 90%. What does that even mean? Does that mean that you invest in and then sell? You sell and get liquid at a profit at your hurdle rate on 90% of your investments? I'm not buying that. But anyways, he claims mine right now is 90%, and that's because we built teams, not founders. As far as hiring a CEO, companies need to hire a CEO with industry experience and clout to close the deals. Most founders who invent, say, a new, I just seems to be a typo in there. I have no idea what this says here. But anyways, he's saying that not everyone is Elon Musk. Expecting them to be is just stupid. So what side are you on? There's a little debate, a little aggression between two successful VC firms. I thought that was kind of interesting. What we could take from that? Well, the first thing we can do is we can remember we are not a VC firm. unless you're a VC firm listening to me right now. But if you're an owner, a business owner, a founder, a startup person, what does the VC firm expect from you? Well, you've got two different takes on this right now. Should you be a jack of all trades? Well, you should do what you have to do. That's the whole point of being a founder. Success depends on you. If the rabbi wants to pay for more qualified people, for PR firms, for consulting firms, have at it, right? As a founder, cool. But if you're with a VC that doesn't want to pay for that, this falls on you, and you do need to suck that up and do the things that you maybe don't want to do, or that you're not the best at, until you can find an other solution. By the way, these PR firms, digital marketing firms, all this sort of stuff, you can't outsource that stuff. You just can't do it and expect it to work out. You can't say, I don't know anything about digital marketing and advertising and direct to consumer. I'm good at this other part of the business, so I'm going to outsource this to an agency. That will not work. People do it over and over and over again. All they do is lose money and spend a bunch of cash. It never, ever works. What you need to do is figure it out yourself with your team. Find a model that works. And when you have a model that works, if you want to hand it over to an agency or to somebody else to scale it, have at it. You can do that. But you're the one, you're the founder, you're the leader, you're the CEO. You need to be the one that figures this out. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mandeep on Instagram. I've got lots of Instagram followers today, so that's cool. And by the way, I'm running out of time here. It's true that you shouldn't spend money on stupid stuff, consultants, big parties, merch. As a founder, you should have an alignment with your VC on those expectations. You should do that preferably before you take the deal. Look at, you take the deal with this, what was his name? Where are we? Luke Jensen fellow. You take his cash and he becomes your VC, and all of a sudden you can't fly the way you want, and you can't implement your business plan the way you think you're going to implement it. It doesn't mean he's wrong. It's his money, right? It's his expectations, but you should know that up front. And on the other hand, if you go with Rabbi Moskovitz, who's a wonderful dude, I've talked to him many times on the phone. If you go with him and he wants to spend money on that sort of stuff, yet he expects he's going to replace you as CEO as you scale your business because you need somebody with better contacts. Okay, just don't forget that these sort of debates are coming from the venture capital perspective. If they're willing to write the check, maybe you should be willing to take the check, but if they're not willing to spend money on some things, at the end of the day, it falls to the founder. It falls to the founder to make sure those things get done. Otherwise, your business is going to fail. And if you can afford it, fly business class. There's my piece of advice for you. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe you'll sit beside a prime minister and he'll hold your dinner tray for you. All right. That's it for today. This is November 21st. 2024, episode 305. I will not have a show in the morning because I'm flying out of Chicago early back to Calgary. So I will be in the air or through check-in at the airport anyways during showtime. So no show tomorrow. We'll pick it up Monday. Remember, we're Mondays to Friday, 8:30 Mountain Time. Thank you for joining.